Right now, before you do anything else, make a fist with one hand. Just squeeze it shut, the way you would before shaking someone's hand at church or at your grandson's graduation or with a new doctor you just met for the first time. Notice how that feels. Notice how much effort it takes. Hold that feeling for a second, because what I'm about to tell you might change the way you think about it completely. That ordinary motion, the one you've done 1,000 times without thinking, is something researchers have quietly been studying for years. And what they've found is almost hard to believe. The strength in that simple squeeze has been linked, again and again, to how well people recover from illness, how steady they stay on their feet, and even how long they tend to live. Not their cholesterol, not their blood pressure, their grip. I know how that sounds. It sounds like it can't possibly be that simple. And in a way, you're right, it isn't really about your hand at all. Your hand is just the messenger. What it's actually telling researchers about is something much bigger happening throughout your entire body. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack together today. But before we get into the why, I want to ask you something honestly, because I suspect a lot of you watching already know the answer in your gut. Have you noticed it's gotten a little harder to twist open a jar of pickles that used to come open easily? Has carrying the grocery bags from the car started to feel like a two-trip job instead of one? Maybe you've caught yourself switching the laundry basket to your other hip halfway across the room, or asking someone else to open that stubborn water bottle cap. If any of that sounds familiar, I want you to know two things. First, you are far from alone. Second, what you're noticing might be more meaningful than you've ever been told. For most of us, these little moments get filed away under just getting older. A jar is a little tighter. A bag is a little heavier. We shrug, we adjust, we move on. Nobody ever tells us to pay attention to it. But here's the part that genuinely surprised me when I first came across this research. Doctors and gerontologists, the scientists who specialize in how we age, have started paying very close attention to exactly this. Not because weak hands are dangerous on their own, but because of what weak hands seem to be quietly revealing about everything else. Later in this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly what that connection is, and I promise you, it has very little to do with your hands and everything to do with your nervous system, your muscles, and how your whole body is aging together as one connected system. That part alone changed how I think about strength after 60. But there's something even more important coming after that. Because once you understand why this happens, the next question is obvious. What do you actually do about it? And the answer might be the easiest health habit you adopt all year, something that takes less time than brewing your morning coffee, and that you can start today, even if you've never lifted a weight in your life. I also want to give you something you can use right now today in the next 60 seconds after this section. A simple way to actually test your own grip strength at home with nothing but your own hands, so you're not left wondering whether any of this even applies to you. Because here's the truth. Some of you watching have nothing to worry about. Your grip is exactly where it should be. But for others, this video might be catching something early enough that it's still easy to turn around. That's really the heart of why I wanted to make this video. So much of what we're told about aging and longevity points us toward big, complicated things: diet trends, supplement stacks, the latest superfood, hours of cardio. And those things matter. But almost nobody is talking about something this simple, this measurable, and this trainable. Something you could check on your own kitchen table in the next few minutes. So stay with me here, because there are a few things I need to explain before any of this will make sense. What's actually happening inside your body that connects your grip to your future, what the real warning signs look like, and the one daily habit that researchers believe can start rebuilding this, even later in life, even if you've done nothing about it until today. Because here's something I want you to hold on to as we go. This is not a story about decline. This is a story about a signal your body has been sending you all along, one that, once you understand it, you finally have the power to do something about. Let's start with what's really going on beneath that simple squeeze of your hand. Here's where it gets interesting. Because when researchers first noticed this pattern, they assumed exactly what you might be assuming right now, that grip strength was simply about hand muscles. Strong hands, strong grip. Weak hands, weak grip. Nothing more to it. But the deeper they looked, the more that explanation fell apart. What they found instead is that your grip isn't really being powered by your hands at all. It's powered by a long, complicated chain that runs from your brain, down through your spinal cord, out through your nerves, and finally into the muscles in your forearm that do the actual squeezing. Your hand is just the last stop on a very long road. And that changes everything about what a weak grip might actually mean. Because if that whole chain, brain, nerves, muscle, is aging well, communicating quickly, and firing efficiently, your grip tends to stay strong. But if that chain is starting to slow down anywhere along the way, your grip is often one of the very first places it shows up, long before you'd notice it anywhere else. That's the real reason researchers got interested. Not because a weak handshake is dangerous by itself, but because it may be one of the earliest, easiest to notice signs that something bigger is beginning to shift. And here's where the consequences start to become real. In multiple studies following older adults over time, the people with noticeably weaker grip strength for their age were more likely to experience falls. They tended to recover more slowly after a hospital stay or a surgery. And in some of the largest studies, weaker grip strength was associated with a higher risk of dying earlier than expected, even after accounting for other health factors like heart disease or diabetes. I want to pause on that for a second, because I don't want it to land the wrong way. This is not a prediction about you specifically. It's not a verdict. It's a pattern found across thousands of people that points to something worth paying attention to, nothing more and nothing less. Think of it less like a fortune teller and more like a smoke detector. It doesn't tell you there's definitely a fire. It tells you it might be worth checking the kitchen. So the real question becomes simple. How do you check your own kitchen? How do you know whether this applies to you, or whether you're someone whose grip is exactly where it should be for your age? That's coming. But first, I want to address something a lot of you are probably already thinking. If part of you is thinking, okay, so how would I even find out where I stand? That's exactly the right question, and it's exactly where we're headed next. Because unlike a lot of health markers, this isn't something that requires a lab, a referral, or a 6-week wait for an appointment. It's something you can actually check yourself, in your own kitchen, in less time than it takes to brew a cup of coffee. I'm not going to make you wait until the end of the video for this. I'm going to walk you through it shortly, step by step, in a way that's simple enough to do the moment we finish talking. No equipment required. No special device, just your own 2 hands and about 60 seconds. But before I show you the test itself, there's one more piece of the puzzle I want you to have, because it will completely change how you interpret your own results when you do the test. A lot of people assume that if something like this matters, it must mean diet and cardio don't. I want to clear that up right now, because that's simply not true, and getting this wrong could lead you to drop habits that are actually helping you. If you've spent years walking every morning, watching your sodium, eating more vegetables, keeping your weight in a healthy range, none of that effort was wasted. None of it was the wrong focus. Cardiovascular health matters. Blood sugar matters. Diet matters enormously. What researchers are saying isn't ignore everything else and only worry about your grip. What they're saying is closer to this. Most of our usual health checkups are very good at measuring your organs, your heart, your blood vessels, your blood sugar, but they're not very good at measuring something else entirely. Your muscles, your nervous system, the actual machinery that lets you get up off the couch, catch yourself before a fall, or carry your own suitcase through an airport. Grip strength isn't a replacement for everything you already know. It's the missing piece that fills in a blind spot most checkups don't cover. And here's the encouraging part. Unlike some health markers that feel completely out of your hands, your genetics, your family history, this one is remarkably responsive to what you do, which means understanding it doesn't just give you information. It gives you a lever you can actually pull. So let's talk about what's really happening underneath all of this, because once you understand it, the rest of this video is going to make a lot more sense. And so, will your own results when you test yourself in a few minutes. Every time you squeeze your hand, here's the chain of events taking place, faster than you can notice it. Your brain sends a signal down through your spinal cord. That signal travels along nerves into your forearm, where it tells specific muscle fibers to contract. Those fibers pull on tendons that run through your wrist and into your fingers, and that's what produces the squeeze. As we get older, two things tend to happen gradually, often without us realizing it. First, some of those nerve connections become a little less efficient. The signal still gets through, but a bit slower and with a bit less precision. Second, we naturally lose some muscle fibers over time, especially the fast, powerful ones we rely on for quick movements like catching ourselves when we trip. Here's the part that surprised even some experienced clinicians when this research first came out. This same nerve end muscle system that powers your grip is the very same system responsible for your balance, your ability to catch yourself, and how quickly your body responds in a moment that matters. Your hand isn't a separate system from the rest of your body's strength and coordination. It's wired into the exact same network. That's why a weakening grip often shows up before someone notices a change in their balance, or their walking speed, or their ability to recover from a minor stumble. The hand is simply easier to test, and the signal tends to arrive there early. Now here's the encouraging half of this story, and I don't want it to get lost. This entire system, nerves, muscle fibers, the connections between them, remains remarkably capable of adapting at any age. Researchers have measured meaningful improvements in grip strength in people well into their 70s and 80s, often within a matter of weeks of consistent, gentle effort. Your nervous system doesn't stop listening just because you've turned 60, 70, or 80. It's still paying attention. It's still willing to respond. Which brings us to a question that matters more than almost anything else in this video. If this system is still responsive, what does it actually look like when it starts to slip? And how would you know if it's happening to you right now? Let's bring this down out of the science and into your actual daily life, because that's where this either matters or it doesn't. If this part of your body is gradually weakening, it rarely announces itself with a single dramatic moment. It shows up in small substitutions you might already be making without thinking twice. Asking someone else to open the jar instead of trying yourself. Using both hands for things you used to do with one. Setting your grocery bags down halfway to the kitchen, just to rest for a second. Holding the railing a little tighter on the stairs than you used to. None of these moments feel like a health crisis. They feel like minor inconveniences. That's exactly what makes this pattern easy to miss, and exactly why researchers think it deserves more attention than it gets. Because if nothing changes, these small substitutions tend to compound quietly over years. The hand that struggles with a jar today is connected to the same system involved in catching yourself during a stumble 5 years from now. That's not meant to frighten you. It's meant to explain why this moment right now, while you're watching this, is actually a meaningful one. Here's the question I really want you sitting with. Is it too late to do anything about this? And the honest answer, backed by real research, is no, not even close. In fact, what comes next might be the most encouraging part of this entire video. Let's do this together. Find any object you can squeeze with one full hand. A rolled-up towel works perfectly, or even just your own fist pressed against your other palm. Sit up tall, relax your shoulder and squeeze as hard as you comfortably can for about 3 full seconds, then release. Pay attention to a few things as you do it. Did your hand feel steady and strong through the whole 3 seconds, or did it feel like it gave out partway through? Did you feel any sharp pain, not effort, but pain in your wrist or fingers? And compared to a year or two ago, does this feel noticeably harder than it used to? There's no perfect score here, and I'm not going to pretend a towel squeeze in your living room is a clinical measurement. What matters far more than any single number is the trend. How this feels today compared to 6 months from now, once you've actually done something about it. And that brings us to the habit itself. Here it is, plainly, with nothing held back. A few times a week, spend just 2 or 3 minutes doing slow, controlled squeezing exercises, a rolled towel, a soft stress ball, or even just squeezing and releasing your own fist with intention. The key isn't intensity, it's consistency. Slow, controlled effort, repeated regularly, is what signals to that nerve and muscle system that it's still needed. If you have arthritis, a recent hand or wrist injury, or you've had any joint replacement in your hand or wrist, please check with your doctor or a physical therapist before starting anything new. This should always feel like gentle effort, never pain. Mild fatigue afterward is normal and expected. Sharp or lasting pain is not, and is your body's signal to stop and get it checked. For most people, though, this is about as low risk and accessible as health habits get. No gym membership, no equipment you don't already own, just a few minutes a few times a week. The hardest part of any new habit isn't doing it once, it's remembering to do it at all. So instead of asking you to add one more thing to your to-do list, I want you to attach this to something you're already doing every single day. While the kettle is heating up for your morning tea, during the commercials on your favorite evening show, while you're waiting for your coffee to brew or your toast to finish. Pick one moment that already happens reliably in your day and let that become your cue. Kettle goes on, hand starts squeezing. No reminder app, no extra step to remember, just a habit quietly riding alongside one you already have. Over the next few weeks, here's what people often start to notice. Jars that used to require help start to feel manageable again. Grocery bags feel a little less like a burden. There's a kind of quiet confidence that comes back into ordinary moments. The handshake, the doorknob, the suitcase, that most people don't even realize they'd been bracing against until it eases. I want to say something clearly, because I think it's the most important sentence in this entire video. Your age does not decide whether your body can still respond to effort. It influences how quickly, maybe. It doesn't decide whether at all. The nerve and muscle system we've been talking about this whole time isn't a fixed asset that only shrinks from here. It's a living, adaptive system that's still listening for signals, still willing to rebuild, still capable of getting stronger at 60, 70, and 80, the same way it was at 30, just on its own timeline at its own pace. You are not behind, you are not too late, you are not fragile. You are someone whose body is still paying attention, still waiting to hear from you. And today, with something as small as a towel squeeze a few times a week, you've already started talking back to it. I want you to imagine something for a moment. Picture reaching for a jar of your favorite jam and twisting the lid open on the first try, without a second thought. Picture shaking a new acquaintance's hand and feeling that quiet, steady strength in your own grip, the kind that doesn't apologize for itself. Picture carrying your groceries in from the car in one trip, setting them down on the counter, and not even noticing it as an accomplishment because it just felt normal again. These aren't extraordinary goals. They're ordinary moments, the same ordinary moments you may have quietly stopped expecting from yourself. And they are well within reach, often sooner than people expect, once that nerve and muscle system starts hearing from you regularly. This is what we mean when we talk about independence. Not climbing mountains, just getting to keep the small, dignified moments of everyday life exactly where they belong, in your own two hands. If any part of this resonated with you, if you recognize that jar, that grocery bag, that doorknob, I'd genuinely love to know in the comments. Have you noticed any of these changes yourself? And if you've already found something that's helped, whether it's exactly what we covered today or something else entirely, share it below. So many people watching are quietly dealing with the exact same thing, and conversations like these help all of us age with a little more confidence together. You came into this video with a simple squeeze of your hand. I hope you're leaving it with something more, a little more understanding of what that squeeze actually means, a little more clarity about where you stand, and a little more hope about how much is still within your control. This is just one signal among many that your body has been quietly sending you all along. And there's another one just as overlooked, just as easy to check, just as meaningful that almost nobody talks about. That's exactly what we're going to dig into next time. Until then, take care of those hands of yours. They've carried you this far. And from everything we've just learned, they're more than capable of carrying you a lot further still.